Thank you for joining us today for Marketing Intelligence is Not an Oxymoron. And neither is intelligent marketing. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Jenny Lassi, the digital marketing strategist for Infinity Direct, and along with me, I have Bart Foreman, our executive strategist, and some administrative notes. So bathrooms are to your left, and we have a chat box you can use throughout the session to interject any questions that you might have in relation to any of the slides you're looking at. We'll ask for your feedback after the session. The session is being recorded, and all lines will be muted during the presentation. So who is Infinity Direct? We are a modern direct marketing agency that develops and executes client-specific marketing initiatives for government agencies, commercial clients, and nonprofit organizations. So there is our GSA schedule. And why are we quote unquote modern? So we use data to get to the root core of your marketing issues. Data always leads and feeds any initiatives we do. We transform that data into an action-oriented roadmap. And we develop creative to inspire positive end user actions. We deploy the right assets to deliver the right message to the right audience through the right channel, that being digital, print, and video. And we understand that marketing is complex and it's difficult to keep up with the dynamic marketplace changes. So let's recap what we've learned so far in this webinar series. The first webinar, Sweat the Small Stuff, we learned marketing is all about the small stuff. There's a lot of it. Don't lose sight of the details, and the big picture is made up of lots of small images. And Me First Marketing, we went over if I'm not first, another brand is. Holistic marketing beats omnichannel and digital. Finding the winning edge. And short-term tactics are a placeholder in the brand's timeline. And long-term strategies create sustaining growth. And now we are with our third webinar in the series, Marketing Intelligence is Not an Oxymoron. And our key takeaways today will be an old joke or new reality. What creates marketing intelligence? Can marketing intelligence get too intelligent? That said, I'm going to pass this over to Bart Foreman, our executive strategist. Bart, take it away.
Thank you, Jenny. VUCA is an interesting acronym that was created back in the 90s, excuse me, in the 90s when the Cold War ended. And the Army was struggling to figure out what the world is and what it was going to be. And they came up with this acronym. V is for volatility because they recognized, even in the 90s, the accelerating rates of change that were going on all around the world. The U is for uncertainty because there was such a lack of predictability. C for complexity because they said everything is interconnected and cause and effect forces are having significant impacts on how we're doing business and how we're governing. And finally, A is for ambiguity, VUCA. Ambiguity because it's so easy to go off track and to misread the situation. So as the Cold War wound down, this is what we were left with. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That was in the 90s. Fast forward to 2018. Does it all sound familiar? Maybe so. So we're going to talk about marketing oxymoron today. And the first thing I did as we were putting this together was to say, let's define oxymorons. And of course, I went to Webster, who was pretty simple and said it's a combination of contradictory words or contradictory elements. Wikipedia got a little more wordy, talking about rhetorical devices that use self-contradictions to illustrate a rhetorical point or to reveal a paradox. So I'm hoping you don't think that marketing is a paradox as we go through this, but you all know the oxymorons. Everything from jumbo shrimp way back to today with artificial intelligence. A lot of famous people have quoted oxymorons. One of the earliest was Samuel Goldwyn from MGM, who said, "Modern dancing is so old fashioned." You're already starting to get the hint of where we're going. "I'm a deeply superficial person," said Andy Warhol. And of course, Henry Ford, from a business standpoint, said, "A business that makes nothing but money is a poor business." I still haven't figured that one out. Yogi Berra, we can never forget yogiisms. No one goes to that restaurant anymore. It's always too crowded. So these are some oxymorons that we just love to remember. But the big question about marketing, which is not an oxymoron, is it the new reality? Is marketing intelligence the new reality? It's a simple question. It's got a lot of complex answers, but I'm going to distill it down into one word, and that's yes. This is the new intelligence. This is the new reality. It's complex because we deal with moving targets. We deal with lots of them, and they're all interrelated, they're all integrated. Think of this as a jigsaw puzzle, that you play with your kids. You got a lot of static pieces that you dump out on a box, lay them out on a flat surface, and then put them together to create a picture. Pretty simple. Where does that fit with marketing today? Well, the surface isn't flat, the pieces keep changing shapes, and you, the marketers, still have to create the picture. So thank you and welcome to the new age of reality. Let's keep moving on marketing intelligence and talk about these multiple integrated moving parts. That starts with strategy because it's never static. That's why we're moving. Data comes from so many different sources, both external and internal, and it continues to grow. And creative, every word matters with regard to your content, and graphics really have to match the content, or you really lose the impact of whatever you're doing. Delivery, uh, we used to drop postcards in the mail. We don't do that anymore as much. Timing is so critical, and execution is demanding today. So, as we look at these things, we have to say, what is the new reality? And the new reality is, in a world filled with integrated marketing intelligence, we've got to find ways to blend that with human intelligence. We've got to be able to take overwhelming amounts of data sources and delivery channels in terms of how we get our messages to our audiences. And we have to put this all together, and that becomes our new reality. It's not easy by any means because, and this is a critical point to take away, there are too few and too poorly trained data scientists to really manage this new reality. So, as we try to build marketing intelligence and we look at this little graphic of a journey map of someone, and it's little and you can't read it because there's a lot of steps in the journey, we have to understand that we need more smart people, not more smart machines, to really create good marketing intelligence. We've got to better understand customer needs and we have to be able to prioritize the journey. So that means we have to pick the data sources carefully, whether it's about lead generation or whether it's about retention and growth of each of your clients. And from that, we need to create new key performance indicators or KPIs, new metrics that help us understand the world around us. We have to eliminate what I call age of yesterday planning, and we have to pull together all these multiple technologies and call it marketing intelligence for what it is. It's understanding what technologies will best influence clients' buying decisions. It is a journey, and it requires marketing intelligence to get through the journey. How do I define marketing intelligence? Probably longer than you care to know. But it's a process. It's a process of capturing and organizing and deploying evolving and relevant data, those great sources of data, the right content, the right delivery channels that's going to impact and influence every customer's buying journey, whether they're customers, whether they're wannabe or ought to be consumers who we want to transfer into becoming prospects and then convert them into customers. So we've got some building blocks, and those blocks are both horizontal and vertical. If you think of the building blocks vertically, you're going to start with an idea and a concept. You're going to do some research on it, gather data, create a strategy, which is always going to force you back to go get more data. Then you're going to create content and creative, and finally you're going to deploy. And by the grace of God, you're going to have feedback coming back from your system. That's the horizontal part. But the vertical part gets really, really exciting when you look at below the line, below the horizontal line, at consumers who become prospects, who become first time buyers. What do we want to do through that process of conversion into first time buyers? We want to retarget these individuals, whether they're people, whether they're business, whether they're government agencies, it doesn't really matter. We have to retarget using marketing automation to make it work. And then I call it first time buyers, and I kept it below the line because I don't consider first time buyers to be customers. They're first time buyers. As marketers, we have to work really hard to get the most important sale, which is the next sale. When they have their second or third sale or engagement with our brand, we can then now start to label them properly as customers and convert them into repeat customers and convert them into raving fans, and that becomes reconnection. So, in other words, whether you're retargeting or reconnecting, you are re engaging your brand message with those individuals or businesses. So, can marketing be too intelligent? I don't think so. Can it be too stagnant? You betcha. That's a Minnesota phrase, you betcha. And can it be out of step? Maybe. Let's look at those. In terms of too intelligent, it requires disciplined thinking constantly. It requires relevancy, whether it's strategy all the way through delivery. Everything we do has got to be relevant, not to us, but to our customers. And flexible, everything has to be flexible because we talked about the jigsaw puzzle, and we have to understand that the market conditions continue to change. There's changing technologies we have to adapt to because our customers are adapting to them. And we have to watch changing competition and thus avoid the blind spots. So, how about stagnation? Yes, there's so many options, there's so little time. Many marketers are still caught in what I call frozen strategies, and as a result, we lose sight of changing end goals. Can it be out of step? Well, here I'm a little wishy washy and say maybe. But it's easy to lose focus and get trapped in the weeds. It's easy to become reactionary and lose sight of our end goals. It's easy to chase the shiny new toys. And as a result of all this, we end up lacking balance in our marketing strategies and tactics. So, marketing intelligence, to wrap this section up, is really about recognizing and responding to the changes that are going on around you before the other guys, your competition, does. Let's keep focusing on marketing intelligence.
Can I interrupt for just a second? So, sorry to interrupt the flow, but I just wanted to interject a thought in regard to change from the previous slide. So it's about recognizing change and responding before the other guys do. Totally understand the what, but I'm a curmudgeon for the how. So how do you know when it's time to respond? What should trigger the response to do something different? I know it's tricky, and is it intuition? I'm a data geek, so I would think that charting metrics like page views, blog views, email metrics, SMS metrics, social posts, to know when there's a deviation from the baseline would be enough cause to start A/B testing if you're not doing that already. But am I on the right track, or can you give us an example of other kinds of change marketers should be on the lookout for, and when is the right time to act?
That's a lot of questions in one sentence.
Sorry. I've had my coffee today.
I guess so. In the simplest way to present this, when's the right time? It's always the right time. Now is the right time. And again, this slide, which I put up too early before you started your
interruptions.
That's the word I was looking for. You got to look at everything. To your point, every bit of information that we can gather, whether it's anecdotal, whether it's real coming from our data sources or whatever, the right time to take action is always now, because it is part economics. It's socially and culturally changing all the time. It's technology that's always changing. And I threw in politics, and I'm not going to talk about politics, but politics itself plays an important part of marketing, because politics are always influencing consumer behavior.
No, that's true.
So if you take economics and politics, put them together, and then overlay social and cultural changes in technology, the answer to your question in one word is now. That answer okay?
I guess that pretty much sums it up. One word answer.
And
Yep.
well, I like to be simple, but I also am going to show a case study here, a situation analysis in a couple of slides. But just understand as you look at all of this and you remember what Jenny said, don't get fooled by all this stuff and by fake news. And I don't mean political fake news, I mean marketing fake news, where you've got so many vendors coming in with the newest technology, the newest ways of doing things, and you really have to sit down and understand what's happening and what's being said. We have to separate the facts from the fiction, and we have to remember my buddy's Newton's third law of motion, which says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And truly, that's going to impact directly or indirectly your brand's performance in the marketplace. So let me talk about that real time case study in motion, because what Jenny was hinting at, I think, very strongly, is there are warning signs in the marketing world. I'm going to talk about an economic downturn. Nobody's talking about that. Whether they're politicians, whether they're marketers, whether they're economists, nobody's talking about an economic downturn. Uh, but we need to be thinking about this because it can have an impact on how we gather marketing intelligence and, more importantly, what we're looking for. So here's my situation. We're seeing price creep across the economic spectrum. Read any economic document. Jenny's a data geek. I'm an economic geek at times. But it's when we see something like price increases coming into the marketplace, what do we as a brand do? Do we raise our prices? What else can we do? What's competition doing? What's the Federal Reserve doing? And most importantly, what are consumers and your customers doing? We saw July unemployment was again below 4%. June had a little bump up to 4. Now we're down to 3.9. What does it mean? What does it mean that we basically have full unemployment for our brand, our category in the industry? And what kind of impact is it going to have on supply chain management as we think about products moving through the distribution matrix? That's part of the situation. Wages are slowly, and I underline the word slowly, inching up. That's good news. People have more money to spend. The supposed tax increase that we had, we should be seeing more money in our checks every week or every other week, but we're not seeing that as much as we expected. But the bad news is, as wages inch up, just as prices inch up, you're going to have more pressure on inflation, and we're going to see consumer price increases. Speaking of consumer spending and price increases, spending is up. In the second quarter that just ended a month or so ago, it was up 4% in Q2. Again, inflation, we need more production. The recovery, though, is soft. It's still pretty slow. And consumer confidence, while improving, it's a gradual trending up since 2007. It hasn't jumped. Another part of the situation is shipping costs are skyrocketing. So Amazon, watch out. It's going to come back and catch up with you. That's because fuel costs are rising and there are driver shortages. We read that loans for autos are more expensive because there are tighter standards. Big industry could take an early hit. And maybe Ford read the tea leaves right when they decided to drop almost all of their passenger vehicles and focus on SUVs and trucks. More situation analysis, gas prices are at a 30-year high. That affects every adult household because it's shifting money away from other sectors. And again, can be an inflation driver. 30-year fixed mortgage rates are at a 7-year high. Now that may slow down new buyers, may increase home upgrades and repairs, which means Home Depot is going to smile a lot, but it's also going to add more fuel to the inflationary file. And again, on a daily basis, we see global uncertainty. One day, North Korea is our friend. Today, they're not. Russia, Iran, China, the EU, and GDPR. All of these global influences are directly impacting every brand and every consumer. So that's a great situation and really dovetails into what Jenny said a few minutes ago about when do we start paying attention to this? And I said, now. There are situational factors we've got to understand because all of these global and local situations can be and maybe are warning signs of a potential economic downturn. So our channel has to be intelligent. We have to use intelligence and be prepared for what I call what if. All the warning signs we saw above are interrelated, and how you, the brands, respond to these challenges have to be strategic and interrelated and not isolated. Let's build on the shoulders that we learned in the previous two summer webinars about sweating the small stuff and me first thinking, which means, again, to Jenny's point, we have to continue to monitor marketplace pattern shifts. We have to identify ways that we're going to protect our brands. That starts, and this is the key to marketing, is staying connected with your customers. That's part of the me first thinking. We have to capture new customers through marketing automation, which we also talked about in me first thinking. And we have to find ways to add value to our brand to soften the impact of any price increases that are coming along. And that means, pure and simple, we have to be smarter than the other guys. This, friends, is intelligent marketing. It's not rocket science. There are 4 ways to create intelligent marketing. And I've got 4 quotes here that I think are critically important. The first one deals with defining your brand proposition. And Josh Gomes from Dunnhumby says the biggest challenge we find in working with clients is understanding what their customers want and how the brand is going to deliver, and here's a key point, better than competition. Dana Hayes at Share This said, pay attention to your data first. Today's smart brand are looking at data first, then using it to determine how to target and who to target. At the same time, this is sort of the opposite a little bit. Don't forget the human element. And I can't overstress this because, as Arnold says here, a lot of people start with the data and let that drive most of their decisions. But nobody, and I love this line, not even with machine learning, can understand humans better than humans. And finally, for everybody, be ready for change. The benchmarks today, the KPIs I talked about earlier, will not be the benchmarks of tomorrow. I couldn't agree with these statements more, and especially the last one. Be ready for change. So that's going to lead me to close. And I want to talk about something called smarketing. Smarketing was born, and alcohol was a little bit involved on the beaches of the Dominican Republic a number of years ago when I was doing some workshops for a client. And in the morning after the evening on the beach, I was talking about marketing and I said smarketing. And someone in the audience called me out and said, did you say smarketing? And I said, well, it was supposed to be smart marketing, but I slurred my words. I'll try not to do that. But I decided to break this down and talk about smart. And what does smart really mean for all of us in the marketing world? Well, S is about strategy because without it, you're just guessing. Metrics is M because data comes from a lot of places, and really you have to pick the right ones that are going to support your brand value proposition. A is for artistry. I would have loved to use content and creative, but I didn't have a C, so I came up with artistry, saying that every word and every graphic has to resonate with your audiences. This is really storytelling with a purpose. Right time is so critical today because in the age of now, if we focus on marketing, it means being timely with our messages. It means marketing automation while taking the labor and guesswork out of delivering the right message to the right customer at the right time. It also means that we're going to use the tools that marketing automation provides to propel our brands forward. And finally, T is for trust. In the age of hashtags, we got to watch out for the next cliff that's coming because you seldom get a second chance. You have to be transparent, relevant, and honest, and those 3 things lead to trust. So with that, I'm going to close with our final challenge. And that is we have to apply marketing intelligence to properly position your brands for the new economic and marketplace realities. We have to understand that the principles of direct marketing are going to allow the brands to respond to every situation like Jenny just talked about. And the key phrase here that I hope everyone takes away from all of our webinars, and especially this one, is marketing is about delivering the right messages to the right audiences through the right channels all at the right time. Notice I pluralize that because you have different messages for different audiences. This is not one size fits all marketing anymore. We left that behind in the early 2000s. So it's not an oxymoron. Marketing intelligence is the new reality. It is powerful, it is strategic, and it's tactical. And with that, you have choices. You can use it to create strategies that will point the way and create the tactics that will deliver. Your end goals may change, they probably will, but marketing intelligence will expand to fill the last void that was left behind when those end goals changed. So, are you going to focus on art or science in terms of marketing? Are you going to live in the real world or in a virtual world? Because those are our choices now. Are you going to rely on human ingenuity? That's a hard word, ingenuity. Or are you going to rely on data science? There's a combination for all of these. Are you going to look at professional expertise? Or are you going to rely on machine learning? And finally, are you going to work on thoughtful strategies? Or are you just going to wait until the next crisis comes along and it becomes split-second targeting to get the right message to somebody at the right time through the right channels? Time's sort of up. Jenny, we got through this. I hope we didn't go over time too much because I didn't turn on my clock to see. And I'm going to let you pick this up now and close us out.
All right, thank you. So we're not going anywhere, guys. The previous webinars are recorded and available, and this webinar recording will be available shortly. Please take our follow-up survey and tell us how we did. And we plan to repeat these webinars again, so you can always tell your friends, but you can always come back and watch on demand at any time, which we highly recommend. And don't be shy. I do see some questions here in the chat pod, and we will have to get back to you personally, which is always better than in a public forum, right? So there's Bart's information, his phone and his email, my phone and email, and be sure to check out our website, infinitydirect.com. And also check out our blog at blog.infinitydirect.com. And thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful Thursday.
Thank you all. We appreciate your time.